You listen to me, he growled. I took care of Charlotte and the kids. I deserve something from her inheritance. You owe me big time. I couldn't believe his audacity. Are you out of your mind? You caused her death. You made her neglect her own children, and it was you who gave her the poison that killed her. As far as I'm concerned, you should have died in her place. Before I could even react, he swung at me, landing a hard punch. It hurt, but I was too enraged to care. Fueled by adrenaline, I dodged his next punch and lashed out, hitting him. Over and over again, until people finally pulled us apart. I had a black eye, but I had broken his nose and left a deep scar across his cheek. Hi, my name is James, and life has been chaotic lately. I really need to get some things off my chest. My family's been through a lot, and it hasn't been easy. Both my parents were alcoholics. While they never hurt my sister, Charlotte, or me, they were constantly violent toward each other. I've done everything I can to avoid going down that same path, but my sister wasn't so lucky. Charlotte's made some questionable choices, especially when it comes to the men in her life. I love my niece and nephew dearly, but their fathers were terrible men. Thankfully, they're not part of the picture anymore, except for the occasional child support payments. I always offered to help Charlotte with the kids. I wanted to be a positive influence in their lives, to give them a chance at something better. And Charlotte was more than happy to take me up on the offer, mostly because it meant free babysitting. I watched the kids while she worked since I'd work from home. Sometimes it was just for a weekend, other times a few days. That was until she started dating Arthur. I never liked Arthur. He was abrasive, constantly bragging about his money and how he lived in luxury. But Charlotte fell for him hard. She thought she had finally found her Prince Charming, a man who could give her the lifestyle she always dreamed of. As soon as they got serious, Charlotte started leaving the kids with me for longer periods. At first, it was just a few extra days, but soon it turned into weeks at a time. Don't get me wrong. I loved spending time with my niece and nephew, but it was getting expensive. So, one day, I brought it up with Charlotte. Hey, Charlotte, I love spending time with the kids, but I was wondering if you could chip in a little from the child support payments. It would help cover the costs of food and clothes. She didn't take it well. Are you serious? Don't you love your niece and nephew? Of course I do, I said. But watching them for weeks at a time adds up. A little help would go a long way. She sighed and handed me her debit card. Fine. Use this, but only for the kids. Arthur covers all my expenses anyway. I thanked her and made sure to only use it for essentials when she was away. But things started to feel off. After one of her trips with Arthur, she came back looking awful, like they hadn't slept the entire time. Hey, are you okay? I asked. You don't look well. Yeah, we're fine. Just partied a little too hard, she replied, brushing it off. I wanted to believe her, so I let it go. Then, a few nights later, I got a call at 3 a.m. from my niece. She was only 8. Uncle James. Hey, sweetie, what's going on? Why aren't you asleep? I'm hungry. Mama won't make me anything to eat. Alarmed, I grabbed some leftovers from my fridge and rushed over to their house. The lights were on, despite the late hour, and the kids were wide awake. They looked disheveled, like they hadn't bathed in days. I gave them the pasta I'd brought, and they devoured it like they hadn't eaten in ages. When I asked when they last ate, they said it was the previous day's lunch. The kids told me they hadn't eaten anything since yesterday's lunch. Furious, but trying to stay calm for their sake, I quietly slipped away while they ate, heading down the hall to find Charlotte. When I reached her room, I found both her and Arthur passed out, completely naked. On the nightstand, a pile of drugs confirmed what I already feared. They had been getting high while neglecting the kids. I quickly checked that Charlotte still had a pulse, then went into action. I packed a bag for my niece and nephew, scooped them up, and took them back to my place. After giving them baths, I made sure they had another meal before tucking them into bed. Later that day, my phone rang. It was Charlotte, and the casual tone of her voice made my blood boil. "Hey, James, are my kids with you?" "Yes," I said coldly. "They're asleep in my spare bedroom." "Oh, good. I must have forgotten you were babysitting this week. Phew, that's a load off my mind." "Charlotte, I wasn't supposed to be babysitting," I snapped. "Your daughter called me last night because she was starving. When I got to your place, the kids hadn't eaten in almost 24 hours. And why? Because you and Arthur were too high to notice they were hungry, or that they were even there." She bristled on the other end. "Oh, shut up. You don't know what it's like being a mom. You only have them occasionally, but they're my responsibility all the time. It's stressful. I was just blowing off some steam." "That wasn't blowing off steam, Charlotte," I said, my voice rising. "That was self-destruction. Have you learned nothing from the mistakes our parents made?" "Don't you dare lecture me," she spat. "Now give me back my kids." I knew I didn't have a legal right to keep them, so once they woke up, I fed them again, packed their things, and drove them back. When I dropped them off, the tension in the air was palpable. Arthur and Charlotte barely said a word, but the glares they gave me made it clear they were not happy. For the next 2 weeks, I didn't hear a single thing from them. Then, out of nowhere, Charlotte showed up at my door. "Arthur's taking me on a 10-day cruise," she announced flatly. "I need you to watch the kids." The short notice left me scrambling, but I agreed. Before I could say anything more, she left without a word of thanks, leaving the kids standing in my doorway. They seemed upset, so I decided to take them to the zoo. It cheered them up, and by the time we got back, they were laughing and excitedly telling me all about the animals they'd seen. I used Charlotte's debit card to pay for the zoo tickets and dinner, thinking it was only fair considering the surprise visit. Days passed, and I waited for her to come back. I didn't know the exact date of her return, but after 11 days, I started to wonder. When 2 weeks went by with no sign of Charlotte, I began to worry. I called and messaged her constantly, but never got a response. A month later, fed up and concerned, I finally reported her missing to the police. A few hours later, they informed me that she wasn't missing at all. She was at home, inebriated but alive. Furious, I went straight to her house and banged on the door until she answered. She looked disheveled, bleary-eyed, and completely indifferent. "Oh, it's you. What do you want?" "Where have you been, Charlotte?" I demanded. "Do you even remember that you left your kids with me a month ago?" She blinked, clearly trying to recall. "Oh, right. Where are they again?" "They're at my place. I've been looking after them for 4 weeks while you've been off God knows where." "Yeah. Okay, cool. Listen, I'm tired. I'm going back to bed," she mumbled, slamming the door in my face. Stunned and angry, I left and returned to my apartment to take care of the kids. I didn't know what else to do. A few days later, I got a call from the police. Arthur had reported that Charlotte had overdosed and passed away. I was stunned, speechless. The next few weeks were a blur of paperwork and planning. Charlotte had always said she wanted a simple funeral, so we made sure she had a beautiful one. Thankfully, Charlotte had the foresight to make a will. She left everything to me, her house, her belongings, and her finances. Most importantly, she named me the guardian of my niece and nephew, who were understandably devastated by their mother's death. It was heartbreaking to see them go through so much pain, but I was determined to be there for them. Arthur, on the other hand, didn't take the news well. He was furious that he hadn't inherited anything. As it turned out, everything he had claimed about his wealth was a lie. All the trips, the lavish purchases, they had all been on credit. He was drowning in debt and had hoped to use Charlotte's money and property to bail himself out. I didn't care about his problems. In my mind, he was responsible for Charlotte's death, and I wanted him to pay for it. But Arthur had other ideas. You listen to me, he snarled one day. I took care of Charlotte and the kids. I deserve something from her inheritance. You owe me. I couldn't believe the nerve of this man. Are you out of your mind? I shot back. You killed her. You made her neglect her kids, and you gave her the drugs that ended her life. As far as I'm concerned, you should have died instead of her. That's when he swung at me, landing a solid punch. It hurt, but I was so furious that I barely felt it. I dodged his second punch and retaliated, unleashing my anger. I hit him over and over until people finally pulled us apart. I ended up with a black eye, but I had broken his nose and shattered his cheekbone, leaving him with a nasty scar. Arthur tried to press charges, but the police ruled it as self-defense, and I wasn't charged with anything. After that, I never saw him again. Honestly, I wish I hadn't been pulled away from him. I might have killed him if they hadn't stopped me. And in my mind, he would have deserved it. A few months later, I saw Arthur's name in the news. He had been arrested for attempting to smuggle drugs into the country. His plan to make quick money and pay off his debts landed him in prison instead. I felt no sympathy for him. And so, that's my story. It's not a happy one, but there is a silver lining. My niece and nephew are doing well now, and I'm committed to ensuring they live happy, healthy lives. Although the money left in Charlotte's finances wasn't much, I sold her house and used the funds to create a solid education fund for both of them. Their schooling will be paid for, giving them a good start in life. As for Arthur, from what I've heard, he's been in and out of jail and is living in poverty. The last time I saw him, he had lost all of his teeth to his addiction and was living on the streets. As for me, I still carry the guilt of not stepping in sooner, of not saving my sister from Arthur's toxic influence. I don't know if I could have made a difference, but the thought that I might have saved her haunts me. Now, I pour all of my energy into making sure my niece and nephew avoid the same traps. So far, so good. Thanks for watching. If you found this story meaningful, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment below.